DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get to use those of personal initiative, the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one framework. Wrote a book on the subject. And you have this daily masterclass. Yes, you heard me correctly, daily. That means every day. Masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is how to detach yourself from your results emotionally. How to emotionally detach from the results. Now, yes, I know what you're thinking right now, and I'm going to answer the question before you even voice it. Yes, the guy who tells you that life is a results-based business is telling you that there is a time and a place and a method and a reason to detach yourself from just the results. Now, before I go further into this, let me tell you that I want you to send me a text message right now. My number is 305-384-6894, or you can wait until you hear something that really touches you in this episode here today. I want you to text me and tell me the most valuable thing, the most insightful nugget that you get from today's episode. And you'll be in my text community. And yes, I will get that text. And yes, I'll hit you back. My number again, 305-384-6894. Now, the reason why I'm even talking about this topic without stepping on any points that I'm going to make, hopefully, is since all of us, especially those people who listen to a show called Work on Your Game, obviously you're after results. You obviously want the effort that you put in to turn into something, to convert to something tangible, something that you can hold in your hands and you can show to somebody and say, I put in this work, I made these investments, and I got these results. And we know that in life, you're going to be judged on your results. You know that in life that you're going to be judged on what you produce. Just like a tree is judged by its fruits, a person is judged by the things they produce, the results that they produce, the outcomes that stem from their actions. While at the same time, and this is what we're going to talk about here today, if you hold yourself too tightly to those results, you actually can put yourself in a worse position than if you did learn to, yes, you are in a results-based business and a performance-based business. That's not going to change, but learn to keep a kind of like a loose grip on getting those results. It's kind of like if any of you have ever done any boxing or trained boxing or been a boxer, you know that in boxing they tell you, or any of you even watch boxing, when you see boxers, you see they have those big gloves on their hands. So you can't actually see their hands while they're in the ring, but they always tell boxers, keep your hands loose. When a boxer is holding their hands up before they actually throw a punch, their hands are actually loose. They only form their hands into a fist when it's time to actually make impact with the punch. And I was watching this video, my friend Shota, who's a boxing trainer, he sent me this little clip, and it was Oscar De La Hoya. He was training some fighters in the ring, and he was explaining to them, look, when you're just standing there with your hands up and you're doing your little dance and moving around the ring, but you haven't thrown a punch yet, you actually hold your hands loose. And then he showed that when you throw the punch, and you could see him clench his fist, and he had the boxing glove on, but you could see the fist kind of clench a little bit inside of the glove. He said you only do that right at the moment that you're about to hit the person that you're throwing the punch at. But other than that, you want to keep the hands loose. So you're kind of keeping a loose grip on the results. So the metaphor I'm giving you here is the same way that a boxer keeps a loose grip on a fist until it's time to throw a punch. You want to keep a loose grip on your connection and your emotional connection to the results until it's time to actually chalk up the results and see what results actually resulted. So all that said, let's get into the point so you will understand this a lot better. Again, send me a text. Let me know the most valuable thing you get from what I'm about to share. Point number one, topic once again, is how to emotionally detach yourself from the results. There is a school of thought where I hear people talking about the concept of systems versus goals. The first person I heard talk about this and explain it was a guy named Scott Adams, who wrote a book. I think the book he talked about it in was his book called How to Fail at Everything and How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Succeed. I think that's close to the title of his book, but you can look him up. Scott Adams is a very popular book, probably the most popular one that he wrote. And Scott talks about how it's better to have systems in life than to have goals, because when you have goals, You have this outcome that you're trying to achieve, but you're spending a lot of time having not achieved the goal. And maybe you won't even reach the goal. But Scott argues, if you have a system instead, your system, you can actually achieve that every single day. If your goal might be lose 50 pounds, but it might take you 2 years to lose 50 pounds, and maybe you don't even get there. And maybe somewhere along the line of that 2 years, you start to feel discouraged because it's been all this time you've been trying to lose weight, but you haven't gotten to the 50 pounds yet. So you're discouraged because you haven't hit the goal. But conversely, this is Scott's argument here, if you were to have a system that says, I'm going to drink 3 bottles of water every day, and I'm only going to eat 1 meal a day, and I'm going to walk 2 miles a day, that's the system. You can do that every single day. So actually, instead of going 2 years with no checkbox on your to-do list, because your only checkbox was lose 50 pounds, you can actually check off every single day of just following your system. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Each day following the system, and then eventually maybe it'll get you to losing 50 pounds, but you're not held to just that as a yes or a no, a win or a loss. You can win every single day just by simply following a system. Now, while I definitely understand Scott's argument there, and I don't remember everything in detail that he said here, so I'm going to make sure I'm not strawmanning what he said, I believe that the combination of both is actually your ideal. Have goals, things that you wish to achieve. I wrote a whole book on setting goals and conditioning your subconscious mind for hitting those goals. It's called the Mental Workbook. You can get that actually in the Mental Game Advanced Bundle along with my book, Work on Your Game, when you go to mirrorofmotivation.com and claim your free copy of that book, The Mirror of Motivation, on the next page in our sales process. We will offer you 2 more books, and the Mental Workbook is one of them. So that's where you can get that book. But I talked about the value of systems, the value of processes in episode 1569. I said systems and processes work, so why don't you use them? That was a question that I was asking. Now, when you have systems in place and you follow them in a disciplined way, sometimes the most that you can do is adhere to those systems and kind of just let the chips fall where they may. Sometimes in life, that's just the way that it works out. Anyone who plays any kind of card game, and a lot of card games, this is the way that it works. You play your hand based on the odds that you study and the odds that you understand. I remember I don't play a lot of card games like that. I'm not a big gambler. If I do any gambling when I'm in a casino, I like to do roulette. It's pretty fun, even though, first of all, disclaimer to any kind of gambling that you do in a casino, that all the games are set up for you to lose. So don't gamble if you're trying to make money, only gamble if you're trying to lose money. And the only way you can gamble to make money is if you are a professional, meaning you study the odds and you know when you have an unfair advantage. All the rest, 99% of us, if you're gambling because you're paying basically for an experience, because you will lose money on average overall. Anyway, but when I do any type of gambling, I like to do something like roulette. I might play a little bit of blackjack, but even blackjack requires a little bit too much thinking. If there's other players at the table that know the game better than me, they'll get annoyed if you don't play it the right way, etc. So in a game like blackjack, for example, I was in Vegas once, and I'm sitting at this table, and there's 2 other players there, and they were more seasoned blackjack players. These are the kind of guys who kind of know all the odds, and when you have this card and the dealer has this card, you should do this, and if they have this, then you should do that. It was like that. I didn't even understand the game on that level. I could if I get a chance to think about it, but you got to move a little bit quicker when everybody else is waiting for you. So I remember I had 2 cards. I don't even remember what the 2 cards were. And the guy sitting to my left, because whatever I do, whether I take a card or I don't take a card, that affects what card he gets next. So that's the way that they're looking at the game. So my actions, even though it's my money that I'm putting up and he's putting up his own money, our actions are actually affecting each other. So I remember I had these 2 cards face up, and the dealer was looking at me like, all right, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to take a hit? And the guy looked at me and said, hey, I would split those. He wasn't saying it in a negative, aggressive way, but he was saying it in a way like he was trying to edge me on and let me understand what he was really trying to say without saying it in so many words. And he was actually right. And I did split the cards, and I don't even remember what happened. I think I won one of those hands. But the whole point is, when you play cards, or I have friends who play poker. I don't play poker at all. I don't know how to play. But people who play poker, they understand the odds on the hands. They understand, all right, if I have this, and the dealer is showing this, and these many cards have been played to this point, the percentages, the probabilities tell me that this is the action that I should take. That is playing the odds. That's following your system. And the goal is obviously you want to win the hands and you want to win all the money and be the world champion of the World Series champion of poker. But you got to play the systems over and over and over again. You got to have a system, then you play the systems over and over again. I read this book called Thinking in Bets. It's by a woman named Annie Duke, who's a professional poker player. She's been a champion poker player, and she calls it the mistake that many people make in life is when they are following a system, or at least they think they're following a system, but then following the system does not produce the ideal outcome. She calls it resulting. And resulting is when you have followed the system, done everything right, but because you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, you conclude that following the system was a bad idea. This is false. This is false logic. All right, everybody follow what I just said. Rewind it if you didn't understand it. When you follow your system, understand something, that does not mean that every single time you are going to win. Because if there was one system in life that if you just follow this one system every single time, you are guaranteed to be rich, you are guaranteed to make a ton of money, you're guaranteed to be successful, however you define the word, you're guaranteed to always win, then wouldn't everybody be doing it? Of course. I mean, how many different ways are there to make a lot of money in life? There are people who will tell you, and they will preach to you. You see them on advertisements all the time on the internet telling you, all right, this is the one way to make money. Or they'll tell you something that makes it seem like they try to induce FOMO in you. All right, if you're not doing this, you're missing out on $10,000 a week. You see these ads all the time. People are trying to tell you that this system, whatever system it is that they're trying to sell you, this is the one way that you can make a lot of money. Or if you're not doing this one way, following this one system, you're not being successful or you're missing out on a ton of success. Understand they are trying to induce in your mind the concept of what Andy calls resulting, and it is not true. There is no one way that if you follow it, everybody who does it is guaranteed to make a lot of money. That is false. There is no one way that if you follow this, everyone's guaranteed to win. That is also false. There are a few areas in life that if you follow some simple concepts, some simple systems, you can get better outcomes. For example, if you drink a lot of water, that's better than not drinking a lot of water. Why? Because the human body is made up of, a large percentage of it is made up of water. Getting exercise every day is a general principle that everyone agrees will help your health. Getting sunlight, direct sunlight, is a general principle that people agree helps your mental health, helps your physical health in some way, shape, or form. Look at me trying to explain it. Making sure that you are caring for your cardiovascular health, meaning the strength of your heart. We have all agreed, fitness people, medical people agree, that the strength of your heart can help you live longer and have more vitality and more health. There are some systems that we can agree on, but there are many. So say, for example, the people who talk about real estate. All right, if you're not doing this thing in real estate, you're missing out on a lot of money, or you're not making as much money as you could, or everybody who does this thing in real estate makes a ton of money. That is false. All right, there are people who lost money doing the exact same thing. So some systems in life are consistent in a way that if you follow the general principles, you can succeed. But there are many systems that people will promote to you as if you don't follow this system, you won't win. Or if you follow the system, you're guaranteed to win. That is false. There are very few guarantees in life. So make sure you are not resulting in anything that you do, especially when you're following the system. Do not deem your choice wrong just because the result ends up wrong. I'll give you another example, an even more simple example. In basketball, for example, if you know that the guy on the other team who's wide open behind the three-point line, if you know he's a bad three-point shooter, therefore you tell all your teammates, hey, if he gets open behind the three-point line, he's not a good shooter, let him shoot. He's probably going to miss most of the time because he's only shooting 15% from the three-point line. So if you coach all your teammates to do that, or if you're a coach and you tell all your players, leave that guy open and let him shoot, you're better off letting him shoot most of the time because that's what the system says and that's what the statistics say. But if this guy goes out and he makes a three-pointer and it happens to be the buzzer-beating three-pointer that beats your team, does it mean that your system was wrong? Does it mean you were wrong to tell your players to let that guy shoot? No, it does not mean that you were wrong. You were playing the odds, you were playing the probabilities, you were playing the system. You should let this guy shoot because most of the time he's going to miss. If he happens to make it one time, that does not mean you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. All right, we lost this game, or this guy just made one three-pointer and he gave his team the lead. That doesn't mean you were wrong to have coached your players the way that you coached them. Sometimes the system doesn't produce the exact result that you want, but a good system, a sound, solid system will produce the desired result most times, at least more than 50% of the time. i.e., I'll give you another example. A casino, Las Vegas casino, and there are casinos all over the place now, but let's just say Las Vegas, Atlantic City. They still gamble in Atlantic City. Is Atlantic City still vital? I don't know. I haven't been there in a while. But I was in Oregon. There were casinos. There are casinos in, I think, Mississippi. There are casinos actually, they got casinos down here in Florida, not in the city, but outside the city, there are casinos. But every casino is set up so that in the long run, they win. So even though you or I might walk into a casino today and walk out with more money than we came in with, maybe you'll win $1,000, maybe you'll win 100, maybe you'll win $1 million. In the long run, the big picture of that casino's day, they usually make more money than they lose. That is a system. So even though I might walk in and make 1,000 times ROI on the money that I put down on those tables, so they didn't win on me, but the other million people who came through the casino that day, they're gonna win on them. So this is the difference between a system and a goal. So the person who runs the casino is not resulting in saying, damn, Dre walked in with $10 and walked out with 10,000. Damn, something's wrong. We got to tear the whole casino down and start all over because one person got a success on us. No, that person says, okay, this guy, he won what? He made 10,000. He made 1,000 times the money he put down. Okay, well, let's just look at the balance of what we did overall because that's what the system is designed to do. So understand that resulting is a logical error that many people make in life. They're following the system, and just as this time, or at least so far, the system hasn't produced a result. So now you just want to throw the whole thing away. All right, this is a measure of your mental toughness. Mental toughness is a measure of how disciplined and how confident you can remain even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. So if someone tells you do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups every day so you can get stronger, and you do it for a week, and then you go play in a game, and then you still get pushed around by the other team's best player, that doesn't mean doing 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups is a bad idea. It just means it hasn't kicked in yet. You haven't gotten the result yet. So do not find yourself resulting over the fact that you didn't get the win yet and then throw the whole system out in the trash, which is what a lot of people do in life. They stop following their system because they haven't gotten the results yet, and then they never stick around with it long enough to actually get the result. So that bad three-point shooter makes a three-pointer, that's okay. They make one, it doesn't mean you made a bad decision. It's an anomaly. Without anomalies, life would be really boring. I mean, if you really thought about it. If every system just produced the exact same result over and over again, every single time without fail, how exciting would life be? How excited would you be to get up in the morning and go do anything if you knew exactly what was going to happen every single time? And there are some areas in life where we want the predictability, but it's not all areas. If it was, then we would all be robots, because robots are much more efficient, much more dependable and reliable than human beings are, any human being. So we don't want life to be like that. We want the flavor of life that comes with the fact that sometimes the system does not produce the desired result, and that's what keeps it exciting, that's what keeps us on our toes. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to detach yourself emotionally from your results. Number 2, give yourself many chances to win. So this is where the system can work in your favor, and this can be part of your system. Since you can't always control the results of your actions, i.e. that your system is going to produce the win that you want, here's the hustle. Okay, listen very closely. Have many ways to win going all at the same time. Therefore, you won't need all of them to work. If you got 10 different ways that you could possibly win and you only need 3 of them to work, then that means you only got to be 30%. You only got to be right 30% of the time. If you're batting 300, which is 30%, you're good. You succeeded, even though the other 7 failed. This is the hustle. People who are in marketing, if we have any digital marketers who listen to this, digital marketers do this all the time with advertising. Companies who do a lot of advertising, you think of a company like Nike or a company like Amazon or anyone who does a lot of Facebook advertising. Somebody could be running 10, 100 different variations of the same advertisement all at the same time, putting a good amount of money into each one. Why are they doing it? Because they want to see which one works after a certain amount of results. And then what do? They take all of the money they put into those 10 different ads and they put all of their money into one of them because they see the one that's converting, or the 2, or the 3, or the 5. But what are they doing? They're hustling and giving themselves more than one way to win. Let's test this ad, this ad, this ad. In digital marketing, sometimes they call it split testing or A/B testing or variant testing. You just try different things out. We do this ourselves over here. We try different headlines on landing pages. The whole page is exactly the same, straight up and down, except for we change the title, or we change maybe the video, or we change the color of the button, something like that. Amazon does this all day. They're running split tests all the time. You don't even notice it, but they're running split tests all the time because they have so much traffic. They can find out what works and what doesn't work, and they're continually making adjustments. There are people who do this as a full-time job, just testing different variations of things to see what is working. This is the hustle of giving yourself more than one way to win. And then you put all of your resources behind the thing that but actually is producing the result. I told you let me tell you that episode where we talked about this. Episode number is being driven by the data. I actually am not pulling it up right now. But episode 1255, when I talked about how to be more driven, but there's an episode where I talked about data. I don't know if I worded it in that exact way. I'm gonna have to find it. I'll tell you about it later, if and when I find it. But the whole point is this. In any industry in which you have statistics, whether that's basketball with analytics nowadays, or a sport like baseball, which has always been deep into statistics, or digital marketing where you can measure, anywhere where you can measure the results and you can tangibly look at the numbers and say, this is exactly what this action led to this result, and we can tangibly look at it. What do? You can always tell yourself, this is what works. This action produces this result. That means we should do more of this. If we don't want this result, we should do less of this. And that's how you continually make edits. That's how you continually make your adjustments. And this is starting to get into the sports world, which is why we had this whole concept called analytics and a whole different wave of people who can come into the industry and produce, because they can measure things. It's not just off feel. It's not just off emotion. It's not just off of, well, I have experience doing it, so that means I know better than you. That used to be how it was in a sport like basketball, but it's not like that anymore, because now we have this data that we can go off of. Moving on to point number 3. Now, I gotta find an episode where I talked about the data, but I'll get back to that. Point number 3, too much focus on, and again, the topic once again, how to detach yourself emotionally from your results. Number 3, too much focus on outcomes can throw you off of your game. This is why you had to be careful in being too focused on the outcome and the result, especially when you probably can't control it. In most situations in life, we can't control it. What you should focus on instead are your processes. Like I said in episode 1003, when I talked about how to prepare yourself to play off of instinct in 1003, number one thing you do is prepare your ass off and then just let the game go and do what it does. Simple as that. You make sure you're prepared, you do your training, you have an idea of what is going to be asked of you in the moment of doing your thing. And this is with, whether we're talking an athlete about to play in a game, a speaker about to give a speech, a prospect going to a job interview, an employee about to give a sales presentation, a singer about to do a performance at the award show. You prepare ahead of time for what you're going to do. Then when the lights come on and it's time for you to do your thing, you just let your game do what it does. You already did it, the training. It already knows what it needs to do. If you're thinking too much or focus too much on the results, or how is the crowd going to cheer for me? Are these people going to hire me? Are we going to win this basketball game? If you're focused too much on that, what happens is your conscious mind gets involved. And understand your conscious mind is super slow compared to your instincts. Your instincts work a lot faster than your conscious thinking. You're better off allowing yourself to go off of instinct, and the way that you do that is by shutting your conscious mind off when it's time to perform. And the way that you do that is by preparing your instinct so much in your preparation time that you don't have to think about anything when it's time to go. When you're thinking, you're slowing yourself down. In performance, thinking makes you slow. You can always control your execution just by preparing ahead of time to the point that you execute without even thinking about it. On average, over the long run, that will be enough. So even though you might have lost your last boxing match, even though you were fully prepared, in the long run, you're probably going to win more matches than you lose, simply because your preparation was on point. Your basketball team might lose a game tonight, even though you executed the right way, because somebody on the other team just happened to make every shot that they shot. They usually shoot 30%. Tonight they shot 80% and they beat you. Sometimes that happens, but most of the time, are most of the players you play against going to shoot 80%? No. So even though you lost this game, and you might lose a handful of others due to the same reason, you're not going to lose most of them. Most of them you're going to win overall, because you had the talent, because you had the execution, because you had the game plan in place. So make sure you are not allowing yourself to be so attached to the results that you forget to keep following your process. Recapping today's class, which is how to emotionally detach yourself from the results. And even though I'm the guy who tells you that you're in a results-based business, there is a time to detach yourself from the results you're getting. Number one, this concept of system and goals working together. Listen to episode 1569, where I talked about using systems and processes in life. When you have systems that you follow in a disciplined way, Sometimes the most you can do is just adhere to those systems and let the chips fall where they may. Sometimes you can follow your right process to the T and still lose. It's like a poker player who plays the hand perfectly based on the odds and based on what they know and their study and their preparation, and still lose the hand and go bust and lose all their money and get bumped out of the tournament. Why? Because sometimes in life, that's just how the shit goes. In basketball, you leave a player wide open because they're a bad three-point shooter, but they made 3 3-pointers in a row. Are they going to do that most of the time? No, it's probably the only time they did it all season, and that one time is all they needed to beat you. That doesn't mean there was something wrong with leaving them open. This is just how it goes sometimes in life. If life didn't give you throw these little twists in every now and then, life would be pretty boring. So accept it and be happy that it happened. Number 2, give yourself many choices to win. Since you can't always control the results of actions, your hustle is to have many actions going at the same time, and you don't need all of them to work out. You can just see which one works, and then you just put all your resources into the one that's working. Digital marketers use the data in their marketing to do this all the time. Split tests, variations, trying different ads at the same time to see what works and then focusing their resources on that. You should do the exact same thing. Have more than one hustle going at once. When you see one hustle is really working, then you turn off all the other hustles and focus on the one that's producing the result. And number 3, too much focus on outcomes can throw you off of your game. So instead, focus on your process. In episode 1003, I told you how to play off of instinct. The key is preparing yourself so well that when it's time to perform, you can just let your game go and do what it does. If you are thinking when it's time to perform, you are thinking too much. Any kind of thinking is too much thinking in time of performance. Don't allow yourself to get slowed down. Control your execution, because over the long run, that will be enough. If you focus on your systems, execute your systems, prepare your systems, they will be enough to produce results if you have game to go with it. Doesn't mean it's gonna work every time, but in the long run, it will work more times than it doesn't. That's the key. I want you to send me a text message and tell me the most valuable thing you got, most valuable insight you got from today's episode. My number, once again, 305-384-6894, 305-384-6894. I wanna hear from you now. Work on your game. Dre all day.